Wilder Show podcast. Yeah. I'm Scott. That's Laura. Oh, she's not here today. Okay. Don't worry. Please don't tune out. I know. But she is not here today. She will be back. Instagram, if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, it's Wilder Show Pod. Wilder Show Pod on Instagram. You can email us at podcast@wildershow.com. Wilder Show Podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on the TikTok now and again. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. Well, we have a peace deal, or do we? I think we do. We have phase one. Now, many things can change between the time that we are talking here on the old days tape and the time that you actually hear it, but it's good. Even Democrats are forced to say the president did good. Donald Trump did good. I heard one Democrat operative, some call them minions, say that, hey, he deserves credit. I mean, other presidents have not been able to do this, to get this kind of coalition, even with Muslim states, Muslim countries, and Donald Trump did it. Now, I'm not saying that means anything, whatever you think of Donald Trump in other ways for other things. I'm not saying it changes or mitigate. It may mitigate, but it changes those things that you feel are as valid as they ever have been. However, this is a very big deal. Does it mean there will be no warring in the future? It does not mean that. Let me tell you what it means. It means, and this was, I think, very strategic and very smart. It means that the hostages, alive and dead, 48, 28 we're told are no longer alive, and 20 are alive. The hostages will be released at the beginning of this, not at the end. So phase one, cheers in Gaza by Palestinians. Cheers in Israel by Jews. Everyone is excited about this. Gazans, if that's what they're called, Gazans are excited because they believe it will really be the end of the war. By some estimates, by their own estimates, 67,000 Palestinians have died in this war. No idea whether that number is inflated or deflated. We don't know for sure, but clearly people have died to a greater extent, Palestinians, than Israelis. So the people of Gaza are in the streets cheering. People of Israel are in the streets cheering. There's a place called, what's it called? Hostage Square, as I recall. And every Saturday night for the last 2 years, for more than 100 Saturday nights, Jews in Israel have gathered to rally in this place called Hostage Square. I heard a report just this last week of a woman 94 years old who goes every Saturday night to rally for the release of the hostages. That's what's going on, has been going on in Israel. The people of Gaza have wanted this over. We saw, 67% of the people of Israel say they want the war over. They want it done. That you could say, well, they want to win. I don't know. They want it over. They don't want to be worried every minute about bombs and missiles and things like that, to have their kids be a danger from Hamas. And so here's the way it works. There is still, as of this taping, there is still, I think, 24 hours until the ceasefire goes into effect. there's several layers to this. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them is Israel will stop the bombing. Israel will back its troops up to a line that has been negotiated and has been agreed to by both sides. And in exchange for that, Hamas will release all of the 48 hostages, or whatever that number is at this moment. I think 48 is the last we heard, and it should happen on Monday or Tuesday. It's a time difference thing, but a Monday or Tuesday release for those hostages is what we're looking at. The president has said he's going to go there, going to be there, and it's a bit of a cinematic thing, I think, maybe, but he's earned it, I think. Now, there's a little bit of a glitch in this because on Monday, I think it's Monday, maybe it's before Monday, the president is going to Walter Reed Hospital for what we're told is a routine scheduled health update. I did see that the president, in his talk there with the cabinet, sort of adjusted the language a little bit and talked about not Monday, but Monday or Tuesday for the release of the hostages. Talked about some complications that he said we won't get into, but I think it's still on. But then he also said, I'm going to try to be there. And that is very different in the language from what was said initially. The president will travel to Israel. The president will be there. Now, I think the president obviously wants to be there for a million reasons. I think if the president can be there, he will be there. But I just note the difference in the language. The president is going to be there versus I'm going to try to be there when it takes place. That may mean nothing, may not mean nothing. I have no idea. But that is sort of where we are right now. And it's very good news. I mean, it's extremely good news. It's good news for Palestinians. It's good news for Israelis. It's good news for the world, actually. I don't think he did it for the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think so. But is he worthy of that consideration? Maybe. Maybe. So we'll see. You don't get a Nobel Peace Prize for ceasefires. You get a Nobel Peace Prize for peace. But you can't have peace if you don't first have a ceasefire. So I think we're well on our way. I think it's good. I know that it's good. It's good for everyone. It's good for Israelis. It's good for Jews that live in Israel. It's good for others who live in Israel. It's good for America. It is good for Gaza. It is good for Palestinians. It is good for Hamas. Part of what the president did, and this is, I think, a part where maybe other presidents might not have been able to get it done. He actually went to Muslim countries. Think of Qatar, for example. Qatar was a sort of a way station for peace negotiations. They were a moderator in all of this between Hamas and Israel. But it is also, 2 months ago? Maybe less? Israel bombed a place in Qatar. It was not a military success, by the way. But what did the president do? President Trump got Benjamin Netanyahu to apologize for what was done in Qatar. That goes a very long way in getting Qatar on board, in getting Indonesia on board. Most people don't know Indonesia has the largest Muslim population in the world, and not largest by percentage, but it is the fourth largest country in the world, and it is more than majority Muslim. So in terms of numbers, it's the most Muslims in the world living in one country live in Indonesia. And Indonesia is on board, and that is no small feat. And the president got that done. So I don't think it's the last. I've heard somebody say it's not the last chapter of what's happened before, but the first chapter of what's going to happen next. And that is progress. So, peace deal, phase one, cheers in Gaza and in Israel. Good for Israel, good for Palestinians, good for even Hamas, good for the world. And so I want to give credit where credit is due. I think the president did a great job. And of course, we'll see. The government shutdown. I just want to correct on language. Just one thing on language. You know, we've talked before about how if you control the language or control the conversation, you sort of control the trajectory, right? In illegals in the United States, George W. Bush talked about people going to the back of the line. Sounds good. Yeah, people that are here illegally or trying to get in illegally should go to the back of the line. That's right. Absolutely. Well, what is the back of the line? We've talked about the difference between the vocabulary and the dictionary. What's the back of the line? Many people who wanted at the time to support and and probably still like George W. Bush said, yeah, the back of the line, that's great. That's strong, back of the line. Well, it is strong if what it means is get out and go to the back of the line. Yep, it is very, very strong. The downside is that's not what he meant at the time. What he meant was you'll take your number and your number will be the back of the line. But in the meantime, 1 year, 2 years, 7 years, 15 years, you could stay in the country. Well, that's a very, very big deal. And so it's important, the words we use, and more importantly, perhaps what they mean, not just the vocabulary, but the dictionary is important. And so I think of that when I think about the government shutdown. Look, neither side is budging. And I got to tell you, I'm a little surprised. As we mentioned, I think in the previous podcast, I really thought that Democrats would understand that you are putting your own supporters at risk by not figuring out a way to do, in this case, what you have done in every other case. And that is to have a clean, continuing resolution. Look, a lot of these things they're talking about don't come due until the end of the year. There is no good reason why they can't get a clean, continuing resolution and then live to fight another day on these other things that they say are important to them that don't expire until the end of the year, December 31st. But they decided to go for it now and include those things now and to say, hey, we'll open the government again if you will agree to these things. Republicans say open the government now and we will talk about these things. Well, they're not going to do that. And let me tell you why they're not going to do that. Chuck Schumer, and by the way, I think the president is right when he says, we don't know who we're dealing with on the other side, meaning on the Democrat side. We don't know who's in charge there. We have no idea. Is it this? Is it this person? Is it that person? Is it this very small but strong group of people? Or is it what the infrastructure tells us? Is it Hakeem Jeffries? Is it Chuck Schumer? Is that where it is? Well, Chuck Schumer is in a position to have made a difference here, and he has made a difference, but in my view, the wrong direction. Why has he said, we got to include this stuff now? Let me tell you why. Chuck Schumer's fear is that AOC is going to primary him. And just not talking down to anybody, I'm sure everybody knows, or most people know, but just in case you don't know, what does that mean to be primaried? Let's take it to Texas. John Cornyn is running for Senate. Now, he's the incumbent, been there for years, several rounds of years, and he is the senior senator from Texas. Well, usually no one opposes him in the primary. In other words, he's the guy, and or gal, he's going to be the guy, and he'll take on whoever is going to fight it out on the Democrat side. So you have a primary fight on the side that is not in power to decide who is the best person to take on this person who is currently in power. Does that make sense? But every now and then it happens where, and Ken Paxton is a good example, Ken Paxton is taking on John Cornyn in the primary. So John Cornyn has to spend money in the primary to fight in a primary campaign. By the way, all that money that he spends there is money he doesn't have to spend in the general election against the opponent from the other side. So there's a risk that you could lose your seat, in that if you lose, you don't have to lose your seat in the general election to lose your seat if you lose it in the primary. If you have someone who beats you in the primary, let's say Ken Paxton, I don't think it'll happen, but let's say Ken Paxton beats John Cornyn in the primary. Well, John Cornyn will fulfill his obligations for the rest of his term. But at that moment, in the primary, when he is defeated, he is no longer the candidate who will take on whoever wins in the Democrat primary for that Senate seat. Okay, so same thing for Schumer and AOC, and let's talk now about that. Chuck Schumer, old school Democrat, many people on the Democrat side are ready for a change in leadership. Not just younger, but, to borrow a last name, wilder. They want something much more progressive. They don't think that the right way to go is what Democrats have done, and they want to do it differently. And who is that person that might take him on in the primary? AOC. She's young. A lot of people have said she really is the new face of the Democrat Party. She might run for president, but the fear is she might take Chuck Schumer's spot. She might primary, there's that word again, she might primary Chuck Schumer, fight him in the primary, thereby basically figuratively killing his political career. It will be over. After all these years, I don't know how many, I think he spent almost 50 years. I think since he was 20-something, he has been in government. So he would be done. And he's not ready to be done. He doesn't want to be done. So he wants to show that he has the chutzpah, has the guts, the moxie, the whatever you want to fill in there, to do what needs to be done. And one of the things that progressives want is health care for illegals. Now, it's a little bit complicated because it's not necessarily a matter of giving somebody something that they didn't have before. It's a matter of something that is going to expire, and Democrats want it not to expire. I don't want to bog down in that, but the bottom line is they want it to be there for illegals, and Republicans say no. And again, this expires at the end of the year. So this is something they could fight about later. But later may be too late for Chuck Schumer. He has an interest in having all of Democrats know, hey, I'm down for the progressive fight. You don't have to look elsewhere. You don't have to look to AOC. I'm good. I'm going to get it done. Don't worry about it. So he takes this on because he really wants to be able to sort of quash the idea that she, AOC, could be primarying him. That is really the heart of at least the motivation of what's going on right now from the Democrat side. It doesn't have to be this way. So that's one part I want to say about the shutdown. The other part I want to say is about the phrase, we talk about language, the phrase working without pay. There were slight interruptions. It's only slight if it doesn't impact you directly. It's like they say, is it a surgery or is it a procedure? It's a procedure if it's somebody else. It's a surgery if it's you. So some of the disruptions involved airfare. And we told you about this. When this was the beginning, talking about this, we said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to find, they will find ways to say, if it weren't for the shutdown, this woman who wanted to go to her dad's funeral would have been able to be there in time, but she couldn't because of the shutdown. This is all back on, President Trump. But we also said, the people who work that are the air traffic controllers, that is protected from losing pay. They're not going to lose pay. Now, in this middle time, and this also includes people who work for the military, I mean, if it doesn't get resolved by next Wednesday, it's going to get very, very sticky. My guess is that they'll find a way in the next week to get something done, because I don't think you're going to have, more than 1 million people who serve this country be at risk of missing that paycheck on the 15th. Now, I don't know that, but I think that's what's going to happen. But what's being talked about with the air traffic controllers, and, air traffic controllers are in a unique position because what happens in Denver impacts Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. What happens in San Francisco impacts Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. There's a ripple effect that goes on when you have disruptions in any of these places. And remarkably, it wouldn't take very many people to, quote, call in sick, sort of a sick out, to then have interruptions. And an interruption in Denver for a flight that goes from Denver to Dallas and then from Dallas to Chicago is going to impact Denver, Dallas, Chicago. And the interruption at Chicago O'Hare is going to impact LaGuardia. It's going to impact SeaTac in Seattle, because these flights that are coming in to pick up other people are coming from somewhere. A Dallas-Fort Worth delay because of Denver on a flight, for example, from Denver to Dallas-Fort Worth to San Francisco. A Denver interruption becomes a Dallas interruption, becomes a San Francisco interruption. So the phrase I want to talk about is working without pay. If you get paid on the 1st and the 15th, let's just say that. I have no idea whether these folks get paid twice a month or once a month. I believe it's 1st and the 15th, but it doesn't matter. For the example, it doesn't matter. Let's say, for example, you get paid on the 1st and the 15th. On the 5th, you're working. Do you get paid on the 5th? No. How about the 8th? No. 10th? No. 12th? No. Are you working without pay? No. No, you're not working without pay. You have a delay in the pay that you get from the time that you work. So you're not working without pay. You're simply working with the anticipation of pay on, in the example of 15th and the end of the month, that you will get paid on the 15th and the end of the month. So you're not working without pay. But the way they talk about it on the news is these people are working without pay. They're not. If it turns out they don't get paid on the 15th, then maybe they did. But if that money is coming ultimately in the next payment or on the 17th or the 19th or the 24th, and then you get paid on the 31st or the end of the month, they did not work without pay. No one in the air traffic control business is being asked to or told they would be working without pay. It's not true. So those words matter, because if you heard someone say, hey, these guys that are doing, gals, whatever, that are doing the air traffic control, man, they are working without pay. Well, I mean, if you were working without pay, might you call in sick? Maybe. Well, I don't know if you would or not, but if you describe it as working without pay, it's not accurate. Oh, it is time for scattershoot. Oh, I have to say it. Let's go. Wilder Show Scattershoot. Hey. All right. Let's go. Let's see what we got today. One more thing from the news we didn't get to, which I should have gotten to, and this could change, but Texas court has halted the execution of Robert Roberson. It was a shaken baby case. 2-year-old daughter on death row, has always maintained his innocence in the death, some would say the murder, of his 2-year-old daughter. It's complicated. Dateline NBC show has a podcast about this very thing. I can't remember what it's called. It's something, The Final Appeal or something like that. In any case, that has happened. There is a stay in Texas on the execution of Robert Roberson, and we will, of course, continue to follow that. I don't know if you know who Ross Douthat is. Ross Douthat is like the lone conservative. William Safire for years was a conservative and a columnist for the New York Times, and he was like the only one there that held his positions, his opinions, convictions. And, of course, he has passed. And Ross Douthat is sort of that at the New York Times. I don't know if you follow Ross Douthat at all. He's a very, very good writer, as you would imagine. If you're a writer on either side at the New York Times, you're probably a tremendous writer. And Ross Douthat is a tremendous writer. He does a podcast. It's hosted by Ross Douthat and produced by Victoria Chamberlain. It's a thing called Interesting Times. And he did an interview with a gentleman named Douglas Wilson. He's an evangelical pastor, Douglas Wilson. Now, Douthat is a Catholic. And he did this interview talking about America as a Christian nation. Now, we're not going to get into a whole conversation about that. I think it's beyond dispute that America was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. I'm not going to go through all of that. But the conversation, I've read the transcript, and I'll be happy to send you the link if you want that. You send us an email to podcast@wildershow.com. And I want to be careful not to seem to diss Doug Wilson. But I would just say, I think those of us on, when I say our side, I mean, if you are a Christian, I'm a Christian. On the Christian side, I think we have to be careful. Let me give you an example. You ask the average churchgoer, grab them as they're going, not grab them physically, but grab them as they're coming out of church and say, hey, do you think we ought to have prayer in school? And they say, absolutely. America's going to hell in a handbasket. And we can track it all back to when they took the 10 Commandments off the wall and when they stopped prayer in school. You're asking me if I believe we should have prayer in school? Absolutely. We should have prayer in school. I think that would be the common answer. It gets a little sticky when we talk about praying to whom? Well, that's a sticky wicket. Praying to whom? Who do you want to pray to? There are people who pray to people other than who I pray to. They go to public school. Who do you want to pray to? Do you believe in prayer in public school? Yes, as long as you pray to the people. As long as you pray to the God that I pray to, then of course. And who wouldn't pray to the God that I pray to? I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't? I mean, because got it. I mean, that's a real common thing. And I just think as Christians, I really do believe we have to be very, very careful. And in this interview, the Ross Douthat interview, and I'll send you the transcript too if you want it. Send me a request at podcast@wildershow.com. Doug Wilson, the question really is, where should we be a theocracy? Let me quickly answer that. No, we should not be a theocracy. Theocracy and our form of government are incompatible. You may think, wait a minute. How can it be incompatible? We were founded, grounded in the Judeo-Christian faith, and I've seen all the clips, and I know all the things about how we were begun. Look at all the mention of God in the Declaration of Independence. We were founded by those who believed in Jesus, or at least for the most part, those who believed in God. So we have to stand up for that. It'd be wrong not to stand up for that. There are places, and I think about Minnesota, there are places, and I think about Detroit. I think about the outskirts of Detroit. I think about Dearborn. It was at some time true, I don't know if it's true still, but at one time it was true that the highest concentration of Muslims in the world outside of Saudi Arabia was in Dearborn, Michigan. Now, I've been to Dearborn, Michigan many times. I have there's a great little cigar place. It's a cigar bar that I went to with a friend, the guy that I worked with at the time in Dearborn. And it was, I got to tell you, fantastic. Now, I was the only person that looks like me, and you could read that as white. You could read that as American, or what you think of as what an American looks like, the way Americans dress, the way Americans talk, the language that Americans use. But I was, along with my friend, we were the only ones in this place that looked like us. It was a cigar place, but everyone else there was doing the hookah thing, which is really popular in, many places, but certainly it began and originates from another part of the world. So I have nothing against Dearborn, Michigan. I have nothing against the very heavily Muslim populations that exist in and around Minneapolis, St. Paul. But there is a movement in those places. When we first started talking about this a long, long time ago, it sounded crazy. It sounds crazy to say, here's what the Muslim community seeks to do. They're very patient. What they will do is they will get into a community, be very concentrated. They don't have the same rules regarding family and number of wives and all kinds of things that you and I have, or that the law is. But they will come into a community. They will be very, very concentrated. Then they will wedge from there. One little city council district and grow and put up their own candidate and energize all their people, vote for this one person. They vote for that one person. Boom. That's one of the seats. Then another of the seats. Then another of the seats. And this is not new. This has happened all over the world. I mean, I've seen it all over the world. This is the way it works. And part of what is inconsistent with our way of life is Sharia law. When America sort of freed Afghanistan, and Afghanistan puts in place a constitution. But in the Constitution is something about Sharia law. Boom. It's not our form of government. Sharia law is theocracy. Theocracy and our form of democracy are incompatible. They are not just incompatible when it is the Muslim faith. They are incompatible when it is my faith and your faith. And so if you're interested in this article, I'll send it to you. And it may have a paywall. I don't know. I mean, I got it for free, and I don't pay anything for stuff on the web. I just can't believe you have to do that. But I didn't pay anything. But I will send that to you between Russ Douthit and Doug Wilson. It's very interesting. It's very long. But I think you'll find it interesting. And I would just like to say, no, we don't want a theocracy. No one should want a theocracy. No one should want a theocracy in America. You know what a theocracy is, obviously, right? It's a faith-based government. Theology. We don't want a theocracy. No. We don't want it when it's something we agree with. We don't want it when it's something we don't. And you say, well, so you're saying that we shouldn't want prayer in schools. I'm not saying we shouldn't want prayer in schools. I'm saying if you want prayer in schools, in a democracy, in a representative republic, in places like Dearborn, Michigan, if you put prayer in school, in places like some of the outskirts of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and sadly, in my view, a growing number of other communities. Just be ready that it might not be a prayer to your God. So we have to be careful. We have to be smart. It can't just be the right thing to do if it agrees with me. If it is a freedom, then it is a freedom. And you have to allow that people that don't agree with me, that don't agree with you, are going to exercise that same freedom. So just a word to the wise, as we're told, is sufficient. Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's movie from when was that movie? It's a longer time ago than I remembered. It's 2004. Doesn't that seem like it was more recent then? Or maybe not. 2004 is like 21 years ago. It's actually not like 21 years ago. It is 21 years ago. You know, that movie made $610 million on a budget of, $30 million. It's sort of the reverse of Hollywood, that will spend $610 million on a movie that makes $30 million. This was the reverse of that. A huge economic success worldwide. Did you see that this will, I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, Jesus will not be returning in this movie. Jim Caviezel is not returning in this movie. That was a surprise to me. That news, to the extent that it's news, came out this week. He's not, it's a scheduling thing or a whatever thing. I'm not sure we're going to know exactly what it is, but neither Jesus, the person who plays Jesus in the movie, nor Monica Bellucci. She was Mary Magdalene. Wasn't she great? They neither will be in the resurrection of Christ, which will not be out until 2027. And I think it's going to be one of those two-parters, both released in 2027. We don't have the dates on that, and it could certainly be different, but I believe it's going to be something like maybe Easter and then again at Christmas time. I mean, I have no way of knowing that, and it's not even in anything that I've read, but if it's going to be separated at all, I mean, assuming they're not going to release them literally back to back in the same weekend or 2 weekends apart, that what makes sense is something early in the year, okay? What makes sense there is before Easter, right? Somewhere in March, middle of March, latter part of March, depending on when in 2027 Easter is. And then sometime, maybe summer blockbuster or sometime closer to Christmas. That would make sense, assuming all goes to plan. But that is the latest. Jim Caviezel not returning as Jesus. I wonder who they're going to get. That's crazy. I thought he was a great Jesus. By the way, I didn't watch that movie more than I think once. We had a thing at the time, the radio station. I went to a theater with a whole group of people. Watched it in a preview. Very tough to watch. I mean, obviously what Christ went through is very tough. And the argument is, this is what he went through. I mean, we ought to be acknowledging that this, and we should not shy away from it. The horrific nature of it is the evidence of the lengths to which he suffered for us, died for us, took our sins on the cross, et cetera, et cetera. And that's all true. But I'm just not a person who likes to watch like torture and stuff. I know people like to watch the scary movies and things like that. I don't. It's not that I want a sort of a whitewashed version of what Christ did. I know what Christ did. I know why he did it, and I'm thankful that he did. But in terms of like watching it, that was a very long, was it 23, 24, 27 minutes, something crazy, the amount of time that took from the movie or of the movie. I just, that's not something I want to watch. So now, obviously that won't be the case. There'll be some flashback, obviously, to reset it all. But whoever is playing Jesus, it will not be full of torture and all these things. I wouldn't guess, unless Mel Gibson, who was he's sort of bent toward torture. Even his own movies have him almost always. He's being tortured. The character he plays is being tortured. I said this off the air. I told Lauren a long, long time ago. I don't know. He's got a thing about torture. And as much as he's a Catholic, old school Catholic, as I recall. And as much as he wants to tell the story of Jesus, I mean, yes, it's the story of Jesus, but it also is a story of sort of the greatest torture of all time. And he told that, and he showed that in the telling of the Passion of the Christ. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. Caviezel is not returning. I think he had a medical event in a recent something that he did, but I don't know. But Monica Bellucci, I wish they were both going to be in it. And, of course, things could change. But they are about to, I think, begin in earnest filming or beginning. I mean, they have, it's been derailed a bit by some things. Let me say a word about, we mentioned about Taylor Swift and the album and whatever it's called, Life of a Showgirl. Was it Life of the Showgirl? Yeah, Life of a Showgirl. Life of a Showgirl. And I meant to mention last time, she is such a great marketer. I just, this is nothing about the quality of the album. There are a lot of things we didn't talk about last time. Actually, we talked about a lot of them, and I edited them all out because I thought it made me look like a freak. I asked Lauren, I said, does this make me look like, why would you know all these things? And she said, yeah. I said, okay. So I edited all those. I edited all those things out, and she was right, as usual. But I just want to say a couple of things about that. One is an admiration. She is such a good marketer. The other thing is I think about how she broke the record of the most number of buys or whatever, album sales in the first week. People that bought the album, sight unseen or ear unheard, they were not buying what was good. They were buying what she had done before. They were buying hope. That's what they were buying. So it's a weird world we're in now where whenever you look at an album sale, they're buying the brand. In this case, they're buying the brand. They weren't buying the quality of the work. Whatever the number was, some crazy number of sales, 2.4 million, quote, album sales were made by people who had never heard a word. They simply said, it's from her, I'm in, I'll buy it. Now, nothing wrong with that. Good for her. Great branding. She's done a great job. A Pied Piper in many ways. A lot of people love her, and that's great. But when you compare it to, I think Adele is the record she broke. No pun intended. The record she broke was Adele. So Adele has whatever number of buys she had because people heard a single and they thought, ooh, I love that. I want to buy that. Then not the case with Taylor Swift. They bought it sight unseen, ear unheard. They just said, it's from her, I'm going to do it. I'm in. She put cult in culture. I mean, she really has a great following, and there are lots of good things that can come from that and lots of other things that can come from that. But there is a skewing of these records now because the record can be broken not by who has the better product, not by the people who heard something, loved it, and bought it, but people who bought it based on branding, which is much less music and art, and it is much more corporate and marketing and branding. Now, all of those things, the corporate and marketing and branding, result in an exchange of dollars for product, and there's nothing wrong with that. America's built on that. But for those who love music, for those who love art, for those who want what is, quote, good to be rewarded and what is not to not break records, we're through the looking glass, at least when it comes to Taylor Swift. All those 2 point whatever million people that bought those albums didn't buy them because they were good. They bought them because they were from her. And again, No criticism. It's a great business model. I'm talking about for people who love art, for people who love music, who want the record to reflect what was good, not just what was bought. See, in the old days, what was good resulted in an increase in what was bought. We're not in that world right now. And I think some of the criticism of her has been that she has been very interested in the business side. And by the way, again, I want to say all accolades. She is a genius from a business standpoint. Absolute genius. So all good. Comments from me, thoughts from me about her ability to turn people's loyalty into dollars. It's good for the economy. It's good. She's been good for the economy wherever she's gone. But just talking about this one album, she broke Adele's record, not because the album was good. And I'm not saying it's not good, and I'm not saying it's not better than the previous record holder from Adele. I'm saying she didn't beat it because it was good. She didn't beat it because people liked it. She beat it because she's a marketing flipping genius. Okay, end of rant. I got to tell you, I was rooting against Mahomes. Now, he's a Texas guy, and I shouldn't be. He's a Texas guy. He's a Texas Tech quarterback. Texas Tech's doing great things in the Big 12, and I'm a huge Big 12 guy. But there is something about the Kansas City Chiefs. I just can't. It's not Taylor Swift. It's not even what's his face, Kelsey. I just can't. I can't be for them. I think it started last year with the potential for a three-peat. And I'm not saying there's a Taylor curse, but they have not been in a position like they are now where they are less than 500 on the season in a long time. But again, this has nothing to do with, really, seriously, has nothing to do with her. I mean, I'm just not a big fan of Kansas City Chiefs. And a lot of people have believed that the penalties, defensive penalties against the Kansas City Chiefs, so when Mahomes is in there, that the referees have been extra protective of Mahomes. And this is one of those things where when you talk to people who believe that, there is absolutely no way they will believe you're wrong if you say they're wrong. And it also is one of those things where if you believe it isn't true, you can't possibly convince anyone that it's right. But let's look at the statistics that have just come out. A new academic study analyzing over 13,000 defensive penalties from 2015 to 2023 does reveal a notable pattern. During the postseason, referees call penalties that benefit Mahomes at rates dramatically higher than both the regular season and other NFL dynasties. Now, that is a fact. The shift coincides almost perfectly with the team's emergence as the league's biggest ratings draw during a period when the NFL needed that most. You know, a lot of people have talked about this when it comes to gambling. You know, gambling involved in sports, man, it can kill sports. I mean, it really can. It becomes just a medium for gambling money. This research was conducted by Spencer Barnes, University of Texas, El Paso, Brandon Mendez, University of South Carolina, and independent researcher Ted Dishman found the defensive penalties against the Chiefs' offense in playoff games yielded an average of 2.36 more yards, are on average 23% more likely to result in a first down, and are on average 28% points more likely to involve subjective referee judgment compared with the rest of the league. So I have kidded around. I've kidded around a lot and said, the referees are wearing the Kansas City Chiefs jerseys. Now, here's the twist. During the regular season, the Chiefs actually receive fewer favorable penalty calls than average. Penalties against their opponents result on average in 2.02 fewer yards and are on average 8 percentage points less likely to produce first downs compared with other teams. The 31% point swing in first down penalties from regular season to playoffs represents a 388% reversal from Kansas City's regular season baseline. The bottom line is this. If Kansas City makes it into the playoffs, according to this report, according to this study, they will unduly benefit. Officials who had previously worked Chiefs playoff games were the only ones showing this postseason effect. New crews did not. The advantage concentrated on third and fourth downs and in strong scoring situations when penalties most affect outcomes. Let me give you an example. Pass interference. It's third and long, and Mahomes goes back, and he throws the ball long, and, pass interference, oh my, get the ball on the 3-yard line. That would be a good example of what we're talking about. Researchers link the patterns timing to Kansas City's rise as the NFL's biggest TV draw, but the researchers stress, the findings show correlation, not proof of intent or corruption, but for those of us who believe, I think the study helps you know that. And by the way, if you want that link, I'll send it to you too. Podcast@wildershow.com. Podcast@wildershow.com, and we'll send that to you. It's never the same without Lauren, is it? I can't imagine who is still left here with me. I feel like I'm talking to family alone, so thank you, and welcome, family. Never fear, she will be back on the next Wilder Show podcast, which will be next Tuesday. Find us on Instagram. You'll search Wilder Show Pod. You'll like us, follow us, and all that. If you want to send us an email, just email podcast@wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central or before, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So we're also on the TikTok there. So like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. I always say, Lauren, thank you. So I'll say it for all past and future times. Lauren, thank you. Pause for response. And we'll see you next time.
Dun